Okay, so today I'm going to show you guys how to make Flappy Bird in Java. Right now I have IntelliJ open. You can use whatever IDE you want, but I'll be using IntelliJ. So let's make a new Java class and we'll just call it Flappy Bird. So before we start, we need a few imports. Okay, so these are the 3 imports that you need to properly make Flappy Bird in Java. After you have those, so where it says public class Flappy Bird, this is going to be our Flappy Bird class that will run the game. You're going to want to add on more to this. First, you want to extend jpanel. This is so we can open like a screen and then display the Flappy Bird and like all the pipes and stuff on there. Then implement action listener and key listener. And these will make sense as we continue coding. After you finish the proper heading, the class, you're going to make 2 variables and they're going to be final. So final int width. Just do all caps. And then we're going to set it to 400. And you can copy this. And then call the next one length. And this one's going to be 600. These are going to be like the parameters, the width and length for our jpanel that's going to come up on the screen. Actually, let's not call this length, let's call it height. That's a more suitable name, so the width and height. After those 2, let's make some variables for the bird that the user will be playing as. So the first basic one is int bird x, and we're going to set that to 100, and then int bird y, set that to 300. That's just like the position, like relative to the jpanel, relative to this 400 by 600 panel that we're going to open. And then you can do int bird width, so there's a 30, and then int bird height, that can also be 30, then int y velocity, so y vel like that. Set the 0 for now because when it starts it's not going to be moving, and then gravity, so and once we have our panel pop up on the screen, I'll explain why the gravity is 1 and then why it's not -1. Now that we have these variables for the bird, we can create our timer. Timer. And then we can make a method called public flappybird. This is the method that we're going to run when in our public static void main. We're going to call this method and it's going to like basically start the game for us. And just do all that. So inside our Flappy Bird method, we're gonna create a JFrame. Call it frame, and it's gonna be a new JFrame, and we're gonna name it. Just gonna name it. So we made a JFrame called frame, and the name of the frame is going to be Flappy Bird. Then with this frame, we can set its size. And this has 2 parameters, it's width and height. And we can just use the variables that we've created up there to set the width and height. Next one is set default close operation. This one's a bit long, but basically what it's going to do is inside these parentheses, we're going to write jframe dot exit on close. So what this does is when we click the X button on the JFrame, then it'll just close the frame. Then we need frame dot add this, then frame dot set resizable. And then false, because we don't want the user being able to change the size of it, because then it'll just mess up the game and all of our positioning that we have here. Then frame dot set visible, set it to true. And then we have this dot set focusable true, and this dot add keylistener to this. So these lines basically let us properly use action listener and key listener. So that's why we need these. Now we can create our timer. So right here we've initialized it, but we haven't declared it yet. Timer equals new timer 20. So listener will basically be listening to this, which is this class, and the delay is 20 milliseconds. So the screen will refresh every 20 milliseconds. You can play around with this, but 20 is generally like the best thing. It'll give you the best results. Then timer.start. We can start the timer. And before I forget, let's just implement the methods. So the red line underneath this goes away, and these are our action performed, key type, key press, and key release methods that we're gonna use a few of them. We're not gonna use all, but you have to keep all of them in here in order for the program to run, even if you don't use them. Okay, next we're gonna write an overridden method. So at override public void paint. Can I just? So for our next method, we're gonna need the override on top. You actually don't need this, but just write it because it's good coding practice. Public void paint component, and we'll take in graphics G and super.paint component G. So we're gonna make the background first. G.set color cyan. So that would be the background. So we're gonna set the color of like the whole frame to cyan, which is gonna be like a kind of sky type color, and then the rectangle is gonna be the background, and then X and Y are gonna be 0. It's just gonna be right here. It's for Java, the frame 0, 0 is just in the top left corner, so it's gonna start from there. And then the width and height is just going to be the width and height of the whole screen, so it covers the whole thing. Before we continue, let's just test to see if our code works. So let's write a main method. So let's run the program and see if it works. And it does. So we just opened up a JFrame. It's called flappybird, as you can see right here. And our blue background covers the whole thing. And because in Java, like the positioning is not different. The center is not 0, 0. This top corner right here, top left corner, is X0 and Y0. So that means like the Y is kind of inverted if you compare it to a normal like graph. So the reason gravity is 1 and not -1 is because if you go down here, the Y value gets greater. So the gravity has to be 1. So the bird is able to fall down here. And that means its Y value is getting greater. It's kind of inverse if you think about it, but that's just how Java works. And if this point is 0, 0, then this point right here, the bottom right corner, would be 400 and 600. That's our width and height of the thing. If I increase this to, let's say, 600, and we rerun that, it's going to be more of a square. So you can play with these like and change them to what you want. But for Flappy Bird, like a game that's playing on your phone, like it's better to have it like more of a rectangular shape rather than a square shape. Okay, so now that we know our program so far works, let's finish coding for the bird. First, now we have to draw the bird. You can just copy this code and just change it up. We'll set the color to yellow. And then these values, we can just change to bird width, bird height, bird X, and bird Y. Okay, now that we've drawn our bird, now we have to implement the physics for it, which is like basically as soon as the game starts, the bird continues falling to the ground, and if you click space, it'll jump up a little. So if you run, as you can see our bird there, it's just a square right now. Now we need to actually make a move. So we have to go into action performed, because this regenerates every 20 seconds along with the timer. So let's add the gravity, or let's add the physics. for the bird. So the y velocity, we're going to increase it by gravity. And then we're going to increase the bird y by the y velocity. This will cause it to accelerate, so as it goes down, it keeps going faster and faster, rather than it just going down at the same rate, because that's not how gravity works. The reason this works is because we're constantly changing the y velocity by 1, so it's increasing. But at the same time, we're also adding on the y velocity to the bird y. So as it's going down, it'll keep going down faster and faster. And now, before we run it again, we're going to need to repaint. 0. If you run it, the bird should be falling down to the ground. Yes. And let me just position the bird a bit higher. It's gonna be a little bit, yeah. As you can see, as it's falling, it keeps going faster and faster. It's not falling at a constant rate. So that is what we want. And then the final thing we're gonna do for today is we're gonna code the jumping for the bird. So if the user clicks space, then the bird should jump up a little bit. So we're gonna go in the key press method. They're gonna be our keylistener methods. And then if we can take the key event e, we have to do e.get key mode. It's equal to the key event dot underscore space. That's basically checking if the key that the user has clicked is space. Then to make it jump, increase the y velocity. Sorry, not increase, but set the y velocity to -10. Because when you set it, it's going to jump up all of a sudden rather than it slowly moving up. And the reason it's negative is because Java, the y is kind of inverted. So to go up, you have to make it negative to go down. Now you don't have to set it to 10. That's just the value that I found that works best. So now if we run it, if I click space, then I should be able to jump up. And I can change it to whatever I want. Like, let's say I change it to something a bit more crazy, like 30. And I run it again. And now I'll jump much higher. Fix it some time to fall back. Now it's really bouncy. So I think 10 is the best, but you can change to what you want. The reason we're using key pressed rather than key released and key typed is because key pressed is best for detecting action or like using modifier keys or continuous movement like in Flappy Bird. So it's the best for our situation. But right now we currently do have a bug where you can just hold space and it'll just keep flying up. We don't want that. We want it so you have to click space every time. So that's something we'll be fixing in the next video. So stay tuned for that.